The studio lights blazed hot on their faces, but it wasn't the heat that made the tension sharp enough to cut with a knife. Millions were tuned in, watching as two powerful voices clashed in real time. On one side sat Senator Rand Paul, his posture stiff, his words crisp and biting. On the other side sat Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his calm eyes steady, his expression unreadable. What had started as a heated debate on policy had now turned into something far more personal. Rand Paul leaned forward, voice laced with irritation, and with a half-smirk, he spat out the word arrogant. The room went still. The air shifted. You could almost feel the collective intake of breath from the audience watching at home. For a moment, Kennedy didn't respond. He let the word hang there, echoing in the silence. The host shifted uncomfortably in his chair, as if trying to guess which way the storm would break. Rand Paul's smile widened slightly, convinced he had landed a decisive blow. But Kennedy leaned forward, his voice soft yet piercing, and with one single sentence, he dismantled the insult so thoroughly that the studio itself seemed to lean in closer. "Arrogance," he said, "is when you stop listening to people who suffer." The words were not shouted, they weren't laced with venom, they were spoken with the quiet authority of someone who had lived through battles of his own, someone who carried scars invisible to the cameras. And just like that, the momentum shifted. Paul blinked, his practiced confidence faltering. Viewers at home weren't just watching a debate anymore, they were watching a moment of truth. Kennedy didn't stop there. He began telling a story not about politics, not about polls or numbers, but about the people he had met. He painted a picture of a single mother in Ohio working 2 jobs, unable to afford her child's medication. He spoke of veterans who returned home broken, their voices drowned out by the noise of political gamesmanship. He spoke of families crushed under medical bills, of farmers losing land that had been in their families for generations. His voice carried the weight of real lives, real struggles, and real hope. The studio audience, which had moments earlier buzzed with the thrill of confrontation, now sat in absolute silence. Even Rand Paul's expression shifted, the sharpness in his eyes dulled, replaced by something else, yes, something harder to define. Kennedy had not just answered an insult, he had turned it into an opening, a window to speak about empathy, humility, and responsibility. And this is where the story deepened. Kennedy shared a personal memory of standing at a graveside, of seeing the weight of loss not as a politician but as a son, a brother, a father. He reminded everyone that the true measure of leadership is not in clever insults or winning a televised argument, but in the courage to feel the pain of others and act to ease it. His words weren't rehearsed, they were raw, messy, and real. For 15 minutes, Kennedy spoke with a blend of vulnerability and conviction that silenced even his critics. He didn't hide the flaws in his family's history, nor the controversies in his own career. Instead, he acknowledged them openly, turning them into proof that mistakes do not disqualify a persona, they teach them. He ended his thoughts by looking directly into the camera, as if speaking to every viewer one by one. Leadership is not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the one who listens when everyone else has stopped talking. The broadcast ended, but the impact lingered. Social media lit up instantly, not with the insult Rand Paul had hurled, but with the sentence Kennedy had fired back. Clips of his words spread like wildfire, not because they were flashy, but because they struck a chord in a world hungry for authenticity. Commentators argued, politicians spun it their way, but the ordinary people, those single mothers, those veterans, those families, heard something else, the possibility that dignity and compassion could still survive in public life. As for Rand Paul, he left the studio quietly. He wasn't defeated in a political sense. Debates don't crown winners or losers, but something had shifted. He had been reminded that beneath the sparring, beneath the sound bites, there are real lives at stake. And sometimes, one sentence is enough to bring that truth crashing back. The story of that night wasn't really about politics. It was about the universal hunger to be heard, to matter, to have someone in power who doesn't dismiss pain as weakness. The insult may have sparked the moment, but the response turned it into something far greater. It became a reminder that humility is not weakness and that strength is not arrogance. True strength, Kennedy showed, is the ability to stay grounded in humanity even under the glare of the cameras. And so the night ended not with shouting, not with victory laps, but with a quiet truth echoing long after the lights went out. Arrogance falls silent in the face of empathy.